You know, one of the things that I've always said to our clients when I'm consulting is people seek price in the absence of value.
Mm-hmm.
And the second layer to that is value as a concept based on need. And I usually give this example where it's like, you know, imagine that you stub your toe and you don't know if it's broken or not, but it's still painful, right? So it's like, you got to do something. Well, you're just going to go to urgent care, right? You don't care who does it. You just want the x-ray. You just want to make sure the toe's okay. Maybe you tape it to the next toe and you keep going with your life, right? You literally don't care. You want the cheapest, fastest option, right? Now, if your child has a brain tumor, you're not looking at the price sheets.
You want the best.
You want the best. You're flying to Denver. You're flying to Seattle, right? You're going to St. Jude's, wherever you have to go, and you'll figure the money out. And so I always use that example as like, people seek price in the absence of value. But if something's valuable enough, people aren't even looking at the numbers. If it's life or death for their kid, which is debatably one of the most valuable things for most people, it exposes, it's the extreme part of the example, but it exposes this paradigm of like, if you can communicate the real value of this transaction and what you have to offer, people will look past the,
But you can't give what you don't have. So you have to clearly spend the time, invest the time, be knowledgeable enough and understand the market. So that's a good transition into what your initial question was actually about the markets, about what we can expect. So I think the word you used was season, and I think that's very appropriate because I see this as a season. It's a difficult season.
Yeah.
Because we have seen interest rates rise to levels that many people haven't seen in their careers.
Right.
And when you have the existing marketplace of mortgages at a lower rate than you have currently, it's difficult to find opportunities for refinances.
Sure.
And that means everyone who's in the business is trying to fight for purchases, but yet not only is there more competition, but there's more competition for fewer transactions.
Correct.
I mean, while the media is not doing us any help because the media loves a bad story, you know, the media knows.
If it bleeds, it leads.
Yes, it does. And fear sells. So sex sells and fear sells. So you have an opportunity for the media to do fear porn here. So, so what we see happening is a difficult series of events. And what we need to do is rise above that and persevere, because the good news, and here's a spoiler alert, is that good news is on the way. We are, if we take a look at the housing market and interest rates, right now the housing market activity is slowing. There's fear in people's minds, and the perception is causing people to not pursue that purchase of a home. In actuality, this is the time to do that, because now I don't have to spend $50,000 over asking price. I don't have to put myself in a position where I have to forego an inspection or even an appraisal in order to get this transaction consummated. Now you can behave in a more normal manner and protect yourself and get terms and even get a discounted price potentially where you can negotiate like you've always been able to, right? So this is a more normal situation. People don't buy a home and sell it tomorrow. They don't buy it today and sell it tomorrow. It's ridiculous.
Right.
They typically don't buy a home today and sell it in 3 months. Okay. Maybe some people look at their portfolio of stocks every day, but who does an appraisal on their home every day, right? So if we understand the big picture, real estate values aren't going to go down and stay down. And real estate values are going to tread water from here. They'll probably between now and next year be up slightly. Some markets may be down slightly, but that's the key, slightly. But that's the next year. An average person is going to be in that home 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years. During that time frame, you'll do exceptionally well. And you'll have the opportunity in 2 ways to make your payments easier as opposed to renting. 1, you can refinance from this rate, which I'll talk about in a moment, and there will be an opportunity to do so. And 2 is that you're fixing a payment in over 90% of the cases, or at least an adjustable if you choose one, which make up about 9%. Many of them are fixed for several years initially, right? So these make your payments over time better than renting, which will go up. But the real key that people fail to look at is that incomes are going up rather significantly now, typically around 9% a year. Jobs where people have stayed are seeing a 7.6% increase. If they're switching jobs, they're seeing 16%. So let's take a blended 9%. that is often discounted.
That's an important consideration.
It's critical because people typically have a hard time seeing it, especially the media, especially our government, especially our Fed. They can't see much further than here, right? So as we look into the future, well, next year that payment stays fixed, but my income goes up. Next year that payment stays fixed, my income goes up again. And it starts to get easier. And then what about if next year I refinance? So let's talk about that. Because mortgage rates are not driven by the Fed. Mortgage rates are driven by inflation. Very few people, even in our industry, understand this. So we have seen inflation rise, and accordingly, mortgage rates have risen because the provider of that mortgage, the lender of that mortgage, has to understand they're receiving a fixed payment. The buying power, what they could buy with that payment, becomes more rapidly eroded if inflation goes up. And that's where we are now. So in order to offset that more rapid rate of erosion, the only defense that they have is start at a higher perch by charging a higher rate that offsets that erosion. When inflation is very low, there's little erosion, you can offer a lower rate. As inflation's moved up, you have to compensate for that with a higher rate. That's just the way it works. So few people, even in our business, understand that. Where's inflation going will tell us where rates are going, which will tell us where the housing market's going. Inflation is going to peak in the fourth quarter. To be specific, I'll give you a month that it will peak. It will be October of 2022. The data won't come out to confirm that until November. At that point in time, interest rates will have reached their highest level. It'll either happen in October or November of this year.
I feel like I'm on the inside of the scheme to like, the fact that you have such insight into the future for things that aren't here yet, I think is mind-blowing.
Well, thank you. It's our job to see the future before it becomes obvious.
Yeah.
So you will start to see interest rates on mortgages begin their decline. And sometime between the fourth quarter of this year and the first quarter of next year, rates will be below 5%. When rates are below 5% and they start with a number 4, a lot of things happen. Half the mortgages, as I mentioned before, are below 4%, but half of them are above 4%.
Rate and term becomes real again.
You start to see opportunities to refinance. So that will pick up. Psychologically, as buyers see the opportunity, okay, if rates are at 6, but now they're at 4 3/4 or 4 1/2, that's a lot easier times. The media stops beating the drum because they will be wrong once again on the negativity in the housing market. They will stop pounding the table. They will realize once again that they're incorrect. You got to remember, the media has been dead wrong, and the opportunists out there, the people like, Grant Cardone, and even the negativity that Gary Vee, who's a brilliant guy, has mentioned. And I know a lot of people like him, and I respect a lot of this thing. But on housing, he's been incorrect. The media, calling this savagely unhealthy. The media calling this, where Diana Olick every day, 3 times a day, tries to scare people. Been wrong for a long time. Diana Olick's been wrong for 10 years. Yeah. So any chance she's going to have to think that she could take a victory lap, she's going to do that.